These are the best bolt-action sniper rifles in Escape from Tarkov in patch 0.16.6. First, we're going to look at the 338 Lapua AXMC, then the T5000, the SV98, the M700, and the DVL10. We're not going to look at the other bolt-action 338 Lapua because it's too similar to the AXMC and too hard to obtain for the average player, I'd say. Alright, first up, we're going to look at the AXMC. First thing on the AXMC is going to be the G-Tac. You're going to change that out for the AXMC PG. You're going to put on the G-Tac. And then you're going to add on the pistol grip. The best pistol grip that you can put on here is the Growl. And then on the back, you'll put back on the stock, the like handguard thing, and the upper receiver with the barrel. And then underneath the barrel, you can just run a flashlight if you want. But if you want to just put down a bipod, if you're just sitting down and sniping, you can put a bipod on there. And then on the front, you're going to put on the PSR 338, and you're going to put on the Thor. This gets you the best vertical recoil, and it is the lightest suppressor that you can put on this gun. And then on the top, you're going to put on the Daniel Defense iron sight for that one extra ergo. And then if you do want, this adds like a slight bit of weight, but you can put back on that front rail, and you can put on the other Daniel Defense, or not Daniel Defense, sorry, Chris Defiance, sorry, didn't mean Daniel Defense, I meant Chris Defiance iron sights. And then on the top, put on, so some people like to run the 34mm with the rails on the top and run the PM2, so the Schmidt & Bender PM2. This is the best long range scope, and then you put on a rangefinder on top so you can see your distance, so that you can then sight your scope to that distance at the range they are. And this is the best long range scope, 3 to 20x on the 34mm ring mount. But if you're not sniping as far as that, I would say put the GIS on with a razor, a Voodoo razor. Vortex razor. That's probably my favorite scope for sniping. You can run the Voodoo, or also the Schmidt & Bender is very good for sniping. I do enjoy using this when I snipe, but I'd say between the razor, the Schmidt & Bender. The Schmidt & Bender is a 1 to 8x, and the razor is only a 1 to 6x. And same with the Voodoo and the Tango. They're both 1 to 6x's. The Schmidt & Bender is the only 1 to 8x. And honestly, with this gun, I'd use the Schmidt & Bender, but it's up to you what you use. Up next, we'll look at the T5000. With the T5000, you can't really change much. You can put a laser attachment underneath, but you'd probably want to just take that off and take all of these rails off to save weight, because this is an extremely heavy rifle. And on the front, if you want, you can just put the bipod if you're doing that type of sniping where you're just going to be sitting there. But if you're like running around a lot, I'd just not put the bipod on, but it's up to you because it just saves you weight. And then on the T5000, so with the T5000, you can use the 34mm ring mount to use those higher powered scopes like 3 to 20x, like on the AXMC, but it is a smaller round. It is 7.62 by 51 or 308. So I like to put the GIS on and put the just the thing on, and then I like to run the razor on this, or once again the Schmidt & Bender. The Schmidt & Bender might be one of my favorite scopes for sniping, just because it does go to 1 to 8x, and you can reach out that slight bit farther with the better sight picture at longer ranges. But it's up to you what you put on. And then you could also do this, is put on the 30mm ring mount and put on the razor or the Schmidt & Bender and put on a rangefinder with it, but that's up to you what you want to run. But I just think that GIS is a lot more clean, and you could just run a rangefinder on the side if you want to. It is like more time consuming, and you could lose your sight picture doing that, because you just have to like alt look up and look at the range and then set your range with the rangefinder on top. So that's up to you. And then on the front of it, put on the QDC 762 with the PRS QDC, and that's the best T5000 you can get. The good thing about the T5000 is that when you do shoot and you re-rack the bolt to chamber the next round, it keeps your sight picture like a semi-automatic rifle, instead of like something like the M700 where you shoot and you go back to rack the bolt and you lose all sight picture and you can't see for that like second or so that you're putting in the next round. That's what's good about the T5000. So you can get those follow-up shots a lot quicker than some other rifles, but it is extremely heavy. So you use it at your own, use it as you want. Next up, we'll look at the SV98. On the SV98, you're going to want to change the body to this one, and underneath you're going to want to put on the AGS-74 with the stock, and then take off this like top rail thing and the back sight. And once again, you can add on the 30mm with the rails to add on a rangefinder, or you can just do the GEIS, or if you're going for those longer ranges, I mean, up to you. You could do the 34mm, but I think the GEIS looks the best. If you're not trying to have the rangefinder, it's up to you. And then once again, the Schmidt & Bender or the Razor, and then change it so that you have the threaded barrel adapter with the suppressor, and on the suppressor you're going to add like the suppressor heat shield, which adds, I think it's 5 more ergo or 2 more ergo, but it also cools the gun, but like you're not shooting that fast, so it doesn't matter. And then add on the handguard, and you can put on the bipod if you're sniping like that, or some sort of laser attachment if you want to, so up to you. But yeah, that's how you would run the SV98. All right, for the M700, to make the best M700 you can, you're going to change it to the other 20-inch barrel, and on the front you're going to add on the QDC 762 with the PRS QDC. Underneath, you're not going to add anything underneath. You're going to take the magazine out, and you're going to change the body to the Mod X, and you're going to put on the ARE and the Daniel Defense if you want, or something with like higher recoil negation, like the PRS Gen 3 or something if you want to. But I'm just going to put this on for now for that ergo. And then you can put on the bigger butt pad or the smaller one, depending if you want more ergo or more recoil reduction. And underneath, you're going to put on the F1, the AR-15 F1 Firestream. And then underneath the PMag AC, the 10 rounder, because I just like to run those extra few rounds just to get follow-up shots more often. And then the Mod X rail gives you more ergo, and then you can run the Daniel Defense iron sights. And on this, I do like to run the GEIS over all of the other options, unless you do want a rangefinder, because it does add the most ergo. And I do like to run the Razor on this for that, like, because I use this as more of a shorter range sniper because it's more mobile. Because then on the bottom, if you do add the rail, you can add the SC5, which makes it a lot quicker. And honestly, don't even add on the bipod. Just do the CNC rail and add on like a Balder Pro or something. And this is just like a really quick, like snappy sniper you can run around with and basically just quick scope people with it. It's pretty good. And honestly, I'd just add the smaller butt pad for that extra ergo, and that's probably the best M700 you can get. Actually, you could get better ergo on this if you add this grip instead of a rail, because it does add, I think it's plus 10 ergo. Yeah, plus 10 ergo if you want to add that. So that's up to you if you want to run that. You could also run it loud if you wanted to, because I do see people running loud M700s, and it gives it a lot of ergo. 76 ergo is a lot of ergo, and you can basically just quick scope with it if you want, but I do like to run it suppressed because I do still use it at much longer ranges than the average rifle. Alright, last up we have the DVL-10. On the DVL-10, what you're going to want to do is change the barrel to the DVL-10 500mm and put on the end cap and run the bipod. It does take away ergo, but if you're just setting up with this thing, the bipod's super good. And then I do like to run, so you could do the rangefinder on this as well, up to you. It does, the thing with the rangefinder and the RN 30mm is it does make the gun like one row higher, so it would be like say it's like, how long is this, like six, I think it's like 6 slots or 5 slots or something, it would be like a 3x6 instead of a 2x6. So that's one thing with this ring mount that you do have to watch for. But if you want to run it more like sleek looking, just go with the GIS, the GEIS. But honestly, on like all of these, you could just run the FN 30mm. It is the best looking in my opinion, and it's the cleanest, and you don't really need that much ergo. Like, it's just +1 ergo, so it's up to you whether you want to run that or not. And then on the bottom, you would just run the F1 skeleton, and that's the best DVL-10 you can make. Thank you for watching. Those were the 5 best bolt action rifles in Escape from Tarkov in patch 0.16.6. This didn't include the other 338 lapua bolt action because it's just slightly too hard to obtain, and it's basically the same thing as the AXMC.